On top of Old Horror Hill, in a secret laboratory, Professor Weirdo and Count Kook were in their monstrous glory. 6 drops of the essence of
Often. So what's up on our next list? So we got who covered, what covered, where are we? Okay, Melbourne, Australia. Australia, well, how do we describe Australia to say, the average European or American?
Well, if we're talking to people in Libya, Afghanistan and Iraq, no one's dropping bombs on our houses. So it's pretty comfortable living down here. And work-wise, I mean, there's plenty of work out there. We seem to be middle class. We all seem to be doing all right. We have nice houses, nice cars, and the rest of it. So we're not like the US. But anyone who's listening from the US, we probably know a lot more about the US than you do if you watch mainstream media.
Well, no. Also, like, one image about Australia. You see, in Australia, we live here and we have this image, we're having this functional and successful economy. And, you know, we live in a nice, progressive country. But look, the reality is, we live in a continent that's bigger than America, with more resources per capita. I mean, 10 times more resources per capita than, like, the richest country in the world, which would probably be Norway. Now,
yeah, go on.
The fact that we live a relatively comfortable lifestyle doesn't answer the question of whether we get, you know, the relatively fair citizen share of resources. The truth about Australia is that even our currency is being borrowed from the international markets. We don't even print our own money. We actually pay European and American banks interest on the money we spend. Our farmland is being bought up by Chinese interests because they got to feed their 1 billion people. I don't even know
we're not allowed to eat that food.
If we, the citizens, are actually getting a share of that.
No.
All of those minerals, like, you know, iron ore, trillions of tons of iron ore, copper, etc., gold, silver. Australia has the full gamut of it. That is all being mined by multinationals like Rio Tinto, BHP, Billiton, Orica, etc., which are all multinational corporations which pay, wait a second, half the tax of other corporations and have the government build all their infrastructure.
Oh yeah, the taxpayer pays for all the infrastructure.
And nothing gets added on in Australia. So Australia is like, I don't have a perfect analogy for it. I'm sure you all have some story in your past with some rich kid that you wouldn't have liked, but he was, you know, he had all this cool stuff, and you just made friends of him with him so he can take all this shit. And he didn't seem to mind because his parents would just buy him something else the very next day.
Yeah.
So Australia is like that rich kid who's a total chump in school, and everybody's taking advantage of him, but he doesn't mind, and he's happy, and they're happy, and that's kind of like the situation of where we are.
But we're not going to talk about the government treating the people like that. We're talking about the multinationals and the corporations that are just exploiting this country and saying that if the people of Australia and the government doesn't like us mining that ore out of the ground, then we'll take our business elsewhere.
Yeah, how?
I mean, that's
under the sea or something?
No, they haven't figured out that they're taking the ore out of the ground. So they've gone, oh, wait a minute, we can't take our business elsewhere because we're taking their resources. Yeah. So what we need to do is we need to bring in cheap labour from overseas to mine that ore because the Australian worker is costing us too much money. We're not making enough profit.
And where else can we go with this analogy of Australia of that chump? I mean, I'm just thinking, like, you look at America, you got this Pentagon, which takes half of their discretionary budget. You got all these hawk generals.
Isn't that a private enterprise, the Pentagon? Is it a private company?
It actually is a conglomerate of private companies which basically run the military. But no. You've got these masterminds. You got like Henry Kissinger, Zbigniew Brzezinski, working out how to conquer the world.
How come he hasn't got cancer yet?
Yeah. Then you got like Warren Buffett and Bill Gates, the multi-billionaires pretending to be all charitable while literally, pushing big pharma on Africa.
They just use lube when they're raping you.
But see, in Australia, there is a total absence of these criminal masterminds. Like, even our billionaires, like we have this Gina Ridehart, who's like the richest woman on the planet Earth.
$91 billion in a year profit.
And she looks like Jabba the Hutt, and she says something stupid every 5 minutes. And so, and our prime minister can't string 5 sentences together while being understood. And the last guy that had an original idea got kicked out of office in 5 minutes. So basically, Australia is very, even though you come down here, you kind of have a feeling you're in California. It's a rather different, it's on a different planet. That we are run by sort of semi-competent people taken advantage of by all these nefarious interests. And there's still so much left over that we live one of the most comfortable lifestyles on planet Earth. As a consequence of that, I think there is no more complacent people on anywhere more indifferent to the political situation on planet Earth than Australians. They wouldn't know who's in office, what's going on, why the jobs are good or why the situation is bad or what's going on in America or what the hell the war in Syria is all about. People here just lay back and watch the footy, and footy's this egg ball thing they kick around seemingly without any purpose.
It's like the soccer. I mean, as soon as Australians feel bad about something their politicians are doing or the government's doing or some conglomerate is ripping off the system, bring out the football stars. Let's parade them out in front of us. Let's bring up some story about their girlfriend that just got shot or taking drugs or these are the stories of every day on the news.
This was a headline for 1 month. A sport where the average size of a guy is about 6'4" and the average width is about 4 feet. They're like 150 kilo tanks running around. And scandal. They use steroids.
Well, see, a lot of the Australian people believe that their football club is them. It's their little club. It's their, they're there to play for the people. They haven't realised that in the last 10, 15 years, our football in this country has gone corporate. It's gone so corporate it's not funny. They even built a whole stadium full of corporate boxes and only a limited amount of fans, paying fans, cash customers, can come into the door.
Yeah,
and then they're startled that these players are taking performance-enhancing drugs to enhance to perform. I mean, this is like scandalous. I mean, it's so much bullshit. I mean, it's ridiculous.
As far as I'm concerned, given that the spectacle is so pointless, they might as well take the drugs. It'll be a bit more.
Yeah, but it's just like Rome back in the days when things are bad. Give them bread. And send them to the Colosseum.
No, we got the Colosseum before things get bad. Things are actually quite good in Australia, but they're getting the Colosseums ready. And by the way, every arena is named after a company. And it's so shameless, they keep changing names. Since I arrived in Melbourne, the second stadium at Australian Open was...
Etihad.
It was Hisense, then it was Vodafone... I think now it's Etihad.
It's something different.
It's anyone who pays can get anything named after them. But anyway, where are we next? So we covered the who, the what, the where, the when. Well, it's 2013, sometime in February 16th, actually. The world hasn't ended in 2012.
Nope.
As far as I know, we're not ascended yet to the fourth dimension.
Nope.
So, we'll be around for a few more years, and then it's now is a better time than any to start figuring this world out. Anyway, we're going to talk about we're going to do our segment 1. So segment 1 is news this week. And we'll see what the mainstream media has to offer to us.
Stupid news.
All right. First article comes from Yahoo 7 News. Australia's pricey prices. And it goes on to tell us that we're being ripped off for just about everything. They've done some shopping. Even UK, which is considered one of the most expensive countries on the planet, pays, what is this? Per shopping basket, they pay like $15.62 and we pay $27. Chris, for my reasonably good math skills, that's about 40%.
Yeah, but see, that's just that's typical. When a country is doing well, right, as far as work hours and monetary income, and the dollar being where it is right now in Australia, these companies know they can gouge you, right? When things get tough. I mean, we've even got this not just in one spot, but if I went shopping in South Yarra, which is in Melbourne, is probably one of the richest areas in Melbourne, the prices are cheaper, right? They are cheaper compared to a working class suburb like Cranbourne.
And like,
this is the same shop selling the same tub of margarine and the same
and I'll
bread.
tell you why, and I will tell you why. Because if you're in an upper class suburb, you have maybe some awareness of how much things should cost, about how much they cost overseas, about business opportunities in case somebody's ripping you off. But it's literally our ignorance being exploited. If you're too dumb to notice that you're being ripped off, you will be ripped off. And I don't know if dumb is the right word, but complacent and indifferent definitely do apply. And as we made the point earlier, Australians are complacent, they are indifferent, and being ripped off is just one of those very natural consequences that happens in a free market.
Well, free market is another word for monopoly. I mean, there's no. I mean, free market. A lot of people you hear this word from another alternative, Alex Jones, like to talk about free market, but he doesn't understand what it really means. Because
Chris, can we not go down the? Because even I'm gonna go on like a 15-minute spiel about the freedom of free markets.
No, all right. But I was just going to keep it brief, and I was going to say, when we talk about free markets, a lot of people just assume that we're freeing up the red tape in the market. We're freeing up, but what we're doing is we're dropping all regulation across the market. So we're letting companies like Coles, Woolworths, Aldi, and that come into a meeting and monopolise about how they're going to set the prices.
Because in a sense, the freedom, to compete is also the freedom to rip you off when there is a lack of competition. In Australia, all our groceries, I mean, maybe not all, like 80% of people buy them.
Two major
companies who are totally in bed with each other. We pay like $5 for a loaf of bread. I mean, I have been to some 30, 40 countries around the world, and when I came here, I couldn't help but laugh. Like, what, seriously, a loaf of bread? When I lived in Libya, say what you want about Gaddafi, at the end of the day, the bakeries, when they would close at like 8 p.m. and they would leave all their bread out that they made that day for people to collect. The bread was virtually free. And now I'm here paying $5 for like 3-day-old bread.
Oh,
I wouldn't, so in a third world country, I wouldn't eat that if it was given to me for free, and here I gotta pay $5 for it.
Oh yeah.
Now, that's free market, kind of, because see, when one company gets really successful and really good, it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and buys the next one and buys the next one and buys the next one and buys the next one, and then you have a monopoly. It's kind of like a consequence. But let's end it on that note. And bottom line, Aussies are complacent, indifferent, and we're being ripped off for it. It doesn't come free. Not giving a shit about what's going on in the world has consequences, and this is just an obvious one. And thank you. What is this? Yahoo 7. This is about the first smart thing I've heard from you in a very long time. Okay, next story from Yahoo 7. Not as life-changing. Woman goes to hospital for hernia, leaves with a newborn girl. I mean, what are we learning here, Chris?
I don't know. Is it something about some people?
Per capita than like the richest country in the world, which would probably be Norway. Now,
yeah, go on.
The fact that we live a relatively comfortable lifestyle doesn't answer the question of whether we get, the relatively fair citizen share of resources. The truth about Australia is that even our currency is being borrowed from the international markets. We don't even print our own money. We actually pay European and American banks interest on the money we spend. Our farmland is being bought up by Chinese interests because they got to feed their 1 billion people. I don't even know if we
we're not allowed to eat that food.
If we the citizens are actually getting a share of that.
No.
All of those minerals like iron ore, trillions of tons of iron ore, copper, etc., how do we describe Australia to say the average European or American?
Well, if we're talking to people in Libya, Afghanistan and Iraq, no one's dropping bombs on our houses. So it's pretty comfortable living down here. And work-wise, I mean, there's plenty of work out there. We seem to be middle class. We all seem to be doing all right. We have nice houses, nice cars, and the rest of it. So we're not like the US. But anyone who's listening from the US, we probably know a lot more about the US than you do if you watch mainstream media.
Well, no. Also, like one image about Australia. You see, in Australia, we live here and we have this image. Oh, we're having this functional and successful economy, and we live in a nice progressive country. But look, the reality is, we live in a continent that's bigger than America, with more resources per capita. I mean, 10 times more resources per...
On top of Old Horror Hill, in a secret laboratory, Professor Weirdo and Count Kook were in their monstrous glory. 6 drops of the essence of
Often. So what's up on our next list? So we got who covered, what covered, where are we? Okay, Melbourne, Australia. Australia, well...